Humint for Humanity by Geoffrey Sanow. Geoffrey's life story is one of resilience, curiosity, and service. From humble beginnings on a farm in Ohio, he grew into a man whose journey would span continents and cultures, weaving together experiences that shaped him as a storyteller, entrepreneur, and CIA officer. His path reflects not only a dedication to lifelong growth, but also a profound engagement with the world's most complex challenges. Alongside his family, Geoffrey ventured down roads less traveled, crossing cultural and social divides in North Africa, Central Africa, South Asia, and Southern Europe. Together, they stood before the timeless majesty of the pyramids, explored medieval castles preserved through centuries, and marveled at the ethereal beauty of the Taj Mahal. Step into Geoffrey's extraordinary journey, a testament to the power of service, discovery, and the human spirit.
Welcome to Writer's Way Podcast, the podcast where we step into the enchanting world of authors as we explore their unique writing journeys and the captivating tales behind their stories. I'm your host, Jessica Wilkins, and today we're talking with an author whose journey from a small Ohio farm to CIA officer and international entrepreneur has given him a front row seat to the world's most complex challenges. His stories reveal the lessons he've learned about service, strategy, and navigating life in a global scale. Please help me welcome Mr. Geoffrey Sanow. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. What was the single most formative moment, sir, on your travels that reshaped your understanding of humanity and ultimately inspired you to write this book?
Well, I started as a 20-year-old Peace Corps volunteer, so 20-year-olds don't know nearly half as much as they think they do, and I was no different. And when I was in Tunisia, it was a wonderful country, a lovely country. It's a former French colony. It's a Muslim country, but very moderate, and everybody there was very kind and friendly. So let's make sure I say that. So here I was, a 20-year-old that thought he was going to tell farmers who'd been farming the same way for generations how they should farm, because that was my background. My background was in mechanized agriculture. And the toughest lesson I had to learn was they didn't care what I had to say. So imagine a 20-year-old having to come to grips with the fact that even though, I've got college behind me, I grew up on a farm in Ohio, I'm an American, I got all the ego going for me, they didn't care. Truly did not care. Not that they weren't nice, they were very nice, they were very hospitable, I always had great meals, but they couldn't care less about what I wanted to talk about when I was talking about farm machinery. That was the lesson I had to learn.
Now, you reframed Humint as a form of human connection rather than the intelligence work. So how did that definition evolve during your life and your travels, sir?
Well, I was at the end of my career, I was in the CIA as a senior operations officer, and Humint is a term that applies to intelligence that is sourced to a human intelligence. So it's not signals intelligence, it's not NSA type intelligence, it's intelligence that comes from a human. So that's why I decided to title my book Humint for Humanity, because in it I try and put forward some of the engagements that I had and some of the things I learned engaging with people from different places around the world that chances are most Americans have never heard of and certainly are not visited. Let me just give you one example. I always highlight this one. Most Americans couldn't find Lebanon on a map, okay? But Lebanon is a very important country to our politics. It borders Israel. Its capital is Beirut. It's by Damascus. So that's a very important part of the world. But much like Whitney Houston, most Americans are clueless. So what's Whitney Houston's story? Whitney Houston started out as an amazing talent. She could sing, she could dance, she was gorgeous, she was sexy, she was wonderful. So go fast forward about 30 years or so, and it didn't end well for her, unfortunately and very sadly. Lebanon is very much the same way. Beirut was the capital of everything important in the Mediterranean. It had French influence because it was a French colony. It had Arabic influence, North African influence, Turkish influence, Iranian influence. So you had all these influences going into a port city. And that makes it a really fascinating place, and Lebanon a really fascinating country. And then about 1985, all the civil wars started. And they're still fighting them today. And that's why I compare Whitney Houston to Lebanon. Again, both were beautiful at the beginning, and neither ended very well.
Yes, indeed. With many readers that are stuck in the warmth you encountered in places portrayed as dangerous, like Lebanon, what was the most surprising act of kindness you've experienced?
I can't identify just one. There were so many. People on this planet, if they think you're genuine, they will treat you with genuine kindness. Okay, there's the one-off every now and then that might be a jerk, but as a general rule, they will treat you with kindness. When I was in Tunisia, every dinner with my Arabic instructor and his wife and their new baby. And he didn't have to do that. He weren't paid to feed me. He was paid to teach me Arabic. But they fed me and counseled me and talked to me and befriended me. And I'm still friends with him to this day, 45 odd years later. He was just up in Canada, and we spoke on the phone for about an hour. I actually sent him 2 copies of my book, one for him, one for his daughter. His daughter was a tiny baby when I was there. She's now obviously a grown woman living up in Canada. But I think the most important lesson is that everybody wants the same thing. My Arabic instructor friend wants his daughter to be successful, to be healthy, to have a good life, and, do well. That's what everybody wants for their children. Everybody. Do you have any children?
Sadly, not yet.
Okay, but when you do, and I'm sure you will, you're going to want nothing but the best for them. Well, now, you may not be able to afford Harvard, but you're going to want to put them in the best position that you can with what resources you have. And that's uniform around the world.
I believe it is, sir. Because everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be what's good for you. So I believe it is indeed true. Okay, sir. Traveling with your family adds vulnerability and depth to your storytelling. So how did their presence influence your decisions and so as with your insights?
I have to give due credit to my now ex-wife. My first book is in fact dedicated to her, even though we've been divorced for 10 years, I think, something like that. She was very important to my travels. She took very good care of my children. She took very good care of me. She made it possible for me to be successful. Maybe I would have been successful without her, but it would have been a lot harder. We were blessed with 2 lovely daughters, one of which is now living in Washington, and my youngest daughter, in fact, is taking her daughter, and they're moving to Dubai, where she's going to teach at a school in Dubai. So I like to think that my family benefited from a very multinational, multicultural, multilinguistical upbringing. My oldest daughter has a fabulous ear for languages. Oh my goodness, she can hear somebody speaking a language and she's speaking that language with the same accent 10 minutes later. My youngest daughter, not so much, but she's got other skills. But my oldest daughter had such a good ear for languages. I was so jealous because I just kind of blah, 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 mumbled my way through. So they were a huge support to me. As I said, my now ex-wife was a huge support to me, made everything possible, took care of the kids and the schools and everything else while I was traveling. So I credit them with certainly at least 50% of the reason I was successful.
Wow, that's nice to hear, sir, that even though you're divorced, you still give credits to your ex-wife. Of course, without your ex-wife, your children might not be what they were today. And of course, they are most successful as they are today. So credit is due to those who gives, who wanted. So,
Yes, ma'am.
across all the regions you've visited, which culture challenged your assumption the most, and why?
Well, because I started at a pretty young age, I was only 20 years old, and like I said, 20-year-olds don't know anything. I didn't have a lot of ingrained cultures. I must also credit the Peace Corps with going to great lengths to make sure that we could assimilate into the local culture, and at the same time, they also made sure that we got together to celebrate American holidays. Like in Tunisia, the biggest Christmas party around was when all the Peace Corps volunteers met at one person's house, and we celebrated Christmas. There was a lot of alcohol involved, and I'll leave it at that. But we would all get together, 15, 20, 25 of us, catch up, visit, bond. We all sleep on the floor. We're all kind of young, so, sleeping on the floor is okay. And we bonded, and I'm still in touch with people that I was a Peace Corps volunteer with 40 years ago, 45 years ago. It's that kind of bonding that I'm sure the people in the military have the same thing and any other kind of organization like that. But it was just such a great opportunity for me to make lifelong friends, for me to experience things that I would never, ever have been able to experience. When, as I said, in Tunisia, obviously, I was experiencing a quick funny story. Because I always helped the farmers, I would frequently be invited for dinner. And so I helped this one farmer, and he's like, okay, come on in and have some dinner with us. And so I went in. He's got this little thing on a plate for me and says, here you go. And I said, what is it? He said, don't worry, just eat it. It's good. What is it? Don't worry, just eat it. It's good. When they say that, you always got to kind of wonder. At any rate, he was right. It was delicious. The delicious Tunisian specialty. The Arabic name is ospen. The English name is stuffed sheep stomach, which probably doesn't make it on too many menus in the U.S. It was delicious. I would have never eaten it, probably, had he not persuaded me. But it's things like that, experiences like that you remember 45 years later. And so the Peace Corps folks were all good. When I was in Gabon, I had just as much success. There was a different structure there because we had a bunch of volunteers all working together, and I was responsible for the farm machinery. But nonetheless, we all worked together. We would try and celebrate the holidays together. And that leads to lifelong friendships and obviously lifelong memories. Because again, it was a long time ago for me, and yet I remember it quite well. Well, what I would encourage is I would encourage anybody who is waking up and is undecided on their path. They don't really want to know what they want to do with their life. They should look at the Peace Corps. Because Peace Corps pretty much takes anybody. If you got some college, they don't like a college degree, but if you have some skill, they will give you more skills. They will train you in local language. They will take care of you. All your medical's taken care of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it'll give you a chance to go live overseas and experience a different culture, and it can make your life completely new. So, again, I encourage people to consider that, regardless of where they are in their life.
That would be a good takeaway for this also, sir. Now, your journey highlights the duality of beauty and hardship. So how did you learn to hold both truths without romanticizing or dismissing either?
Probably I would have to give, a lot of credit to my now ex-wife and having a family, having two great daughters. That is what helps keep things in balance. And as long as you can always remember what's important, then the little things that are kind of annoying, there might be big things that are kind of annoying, but you can put them aside because you have what is important in front of you. You have your family, your children, whatever the case may be, and because at the end of the day, that's really the most important thing. And so by being able to always focus on that, you'll get through the days.
Indeed, it is. Now, looking back, what personal fears or biases did you did your journey force you to confront, and how did confronting them change you?
Well, I think most Americans are raised with the bias that we get from television. I'll use India as an example. I'm not picking on India. Please, any Indian, don't think I'm picking on you, because I'm not. But the Indian culture is very separate and distinct. And it's great. Don't get me wrong, it's great culture, but it's very separate and distinct from the American culture. So when you go to places like India, and I lived in India for, I think, 2.5 or 3.5 years, you have to learn how to get along. That's the thing that's forced on you more than anything else, regardless of where you go. If you want to be successful in a foreign culture, you have to put your culture aside and understand their culture. There are things about, you go to an Indian wedding, and all the women are over here and all the men are over there. It's very different from anything we're accustomed to. And so it's that kind of exposure. And the trick is, take your American, Ohio farm boy culture and set it to the side. Embrace the good qualities of the other cultures. They're not all good. Not all their qualities are good. I mean, they've got some issues going on right now in that part of the world. But generally speaking, you can embrace the good of that culture.
Of course, every culture is good. Of course, not all cultures has the good side and the bad side. They have both of it. It's either of how you perceive those cultures as good and bad. I believe those preferences that whatever you do to others will be, of course, the golden rule. So you have to be good for you to be treated good also. Okay, so let's go to your book, sir. Of course, we have here the Humint skills. Now, it requires listening, situational awareness, and humility. So, which was the hardest to practice consistently in real-world environments?
I would probably say humility was the toughest one, because it's very closely associated with listening. You have to be humble enough to shut your mouth and listen. Americans, as a general rule, are not particularly good at that. We like to talk. We like to express our opinion. We like to interrupt. You're laughing because you know I'm right. So what you have to do is you have to check your ego at the door and listen. By checking your ego at the door, that enables you to listen to somebody else and to listen to their point of view. And, we teach public speaking in colleges. We don't teach listening in colleges. We might teach a little communication, but at the end of the day, we don't really focus on listening. And that's a skill that you have to develop if you want to understand people, whether it's in your own culture, your own family. How many times did your mother tell you, you better listen to me? I heard that a lot. So we all have to work on our listening skills, especially when we're in a foreign culture, because there's going to be things that are not said directly that we can only hear if we're listening very closely.
So true indeed. Because without listening, you will not understand the situation. Of course, you have to listen, and for you to understand and for you to be able to do what's the correct step to do for everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what lesson from your travels do you most hope readers will carry into their everyday lives or leadership roles?
Well, I hope that they will take away from the book that we live in a fascinating world. We, Americans, tend to be somewhat isolated, as I said, but there's a fascinating world out there full of fascinating and wonderful people. Whether it's in Asia, in Thailand, I lived in Thailand for 3 years, wonderful people, friendly people, great food. Other places that I've lived in Uganda. When most Americans think of Uganda, all they can think of is Idi Amin, and I forget what the name of that movie was. But that's not Uganda. Actually, my wife is Ugandan. So, Uganda is a great place. The people are great. Probably the biggest lesson that I would take away, as I think I mentioned earlier, is that everybody wants their children to be successful. Doesn't matter how you define success, it's defined differently around the world, but every parent wants their child to be successful. If that means in Gabon, they get to have their 1-acre farm and they can have their own family, that's a success story. It's different in the U.S., but we're simply defining success differently. However you define success, parents want their children to be successful.
So true. Now, if you're going to write a follow-up book, what unexplored aspect of humanity, travel, or intelligence would you dive into next?
Well, I've actually already started my next book. It's currently under review by the CIA because they have to approve everything I write. It's true, they do. They got to make sure I'm not saying anything I shouldn't, which is fine. I sign a piece of paper that says I'll let them do that. Anyway, that book is about Damascus, Syria. Damascus is the second most important city to Christianity, and we're a Christian country, so it should be like the second most important city to us outside of the United States. The most important one, of course, being Jerusalem. So Damascus is the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. They've had people living in what is now Damascus since, I think, 2,000 years BC. So 2,000 years before Christ, they had people living there. And they've lived there continuously ever since. So it's a fascinating blend of cultures. It's gone through different colonial periods. It's gone through different political periods. We went through the leaders that were not very nice sometimes. Bashar Assad, the Assad family were rulers for, I think, 2 generations. They were kind of hard on the people. Now they're under another type of leader, and I make no comment on whether he's good or bad because he hasn't really been in the job long enough. But the Syrian people and the Syrian culture has lived through so much, and it will continue living long after you and I are gone. There will still be the culture and country of Syria long after the current leaders are gone. They might have a different politician in charge, but it will continue to be Syria. And as I said, it's the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. It's a fascinating place. The people are wonderful. If you read your Bible, you go to Acts chapter 9, and that's where Saul's conversion to Paul on the road to Damascus. Well, the Bishop Ananias, in the Bible it says, Bishop Ananias was told in a vision to go see the man from Tarsus on the street called Straight. So this is a book written 2,000 years ago. The street called Straight still exists. It goes straight through Damascus. I think the French named it, the Turks maybe named it Straight Street because it went straight to the heart of Damascus. And that street still exists today. So for me, it was fascinating to walk down a street that was written about in the Bible. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So Damascus is a great city. The people are great people. There's so much religious heritage and religious history, Christian history there. It's where Paul was lowered over the wall after, his conversion so that the Jews wouldn't kill him. And they actually have that place marked. So that's how old that city is and how important it's been to Christianity. And as I said, we're a Christian nation, so that culture is important to us.
It intrigues me now that you've told me about your second book. Of course, I'll be watching about that one. So I hope that it will be approved and hopefully that it will be released. Okay, now thank you so much, sir, for being a guest here in Writer's Way. I truly enjoy our conversation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was my very great pleasure. Thank you for getting authors out there, getting them viewed some more, and everybody go buy my book, Humint for Humanity.
Now, that was Mr. Geoffrey Sanow, the author of Humint in Humanity. We hope you were inspired by his story as we were. Thank you also so much to our listeners for joining in. And Be sure to check out his book and join us again for another heartfelt conversation here at Writer's Way Podcast. Until next time, stay inspired and keep reading. Bye for now.